Hi, Michael Fry, President and CEO of Deepwater Subsea. In this episode of The Daily Grind, I talk about the Deepwater Horizon movie and why it's something that I will never watch. Let's get into the show. April 20th, 2010, a day that changed my life, changed my career, changed an industry. A day that changed for a lot of people. I know 11 families that were affected much greater than myself or anybody else ever was. What I want to talk about in this daily grind is why I will not go see the Deepwater Horizon movie. I've thought about this morning, what do I want to put out in this daily grind, and people keep coming back to me and asking me, hey Mike, you're gonna go see the movie, you're gonna go see the movie, and for me that answer is no. And with all due respect to Peter Berg, the director, and the movie stars who just portrayed people who were friends of mine and co-workers, I can't do it because even as we're coming up on the 6-year anniversary, I still get very emotional about it. Something you're not going to see in the movie, and I'm not going to go into a lot. I'm just going to give you something to think about here this morning. Something you didn't see in the movie is I was the subsea superintendent for the Deepwater Horizon in the Transocean office. So if the guys had questions with the blowout preventer, they would give me a call. I got a call that night about, 10:30, asking for, where are the drawings at to the control system. It was my director and his boss. And something that didn't make a lot of sense to me, and it's kind of interesting, is, my job was to get paid for being good at troubleshooting and figuring things out. So here I get this call saying, hey, where are the drawings at to the control system? And it's like, first of all, why are you in my office at 10:30 at night? Well, just tell us what the answer is and don't worry about it, go back to bed. So I hang up the phone, send off or make a telephone call to the rig, no answer. Send off an email, no answer. Send off an email to the rig manager and the rig, get an email back saying, hey, Mike, you need to get to the office as quickly as possible. And I tell this story as part of our subsea management class. Be the first to admit, I live about 10 miles from the Park 10 office. By the time I got on the road, traffic is clear on I-10. I'm doing about 100, trying to get to the office. Why? Because I know something is seriously wrong. I pull into the parking lot. The parking lot's full. Another indication that stuff is just bad. Why are all these guys here, 11 o'clock at night? I go up into the command center, and on the board, obviously here is all of management. On the board is a list of all the names. And it's something that I'll never forget as long as I live, and it's unaccounted for. And you're getting the initial feeds in from video and pictures of the rig, and you're looking at these guys' names, Jason and Dewey and Adam and Don and guys that I've worked with on different rigs and guys that I associated with when I went out to the Deepwater Horizon. And you knew based on their position that, when the event took place, that obviously they were, I say this with all respect, they were at the wrong place at the right time. For those guys who have stayed and battled through to try to prevent the blowout from happening, closing the diverter, closing the BOP, doing the things that they did, and pictures, if you understand how the systems work, pictures will show you that they were doing these things. You hear about the testimonies of Chris Pleasant and Mark and a lot of the guys who, hey, look, we hit the EDS button, we did this, we did that. The thing for me, though, is, coming up on the 6-year anniversary of my condo, like I said when we opened up, not only did it change my career, it changed an industry, it changed families' lives. And even just seeing the trailer and seeing names of people who were lost that day and seeing people who were portrayed that were also lost, so, Dewey and Jason and some of the other guys, I've already lived it once. I really don't care to live through it again. Did I go through the pain and the trauma that the guys on the rig went through? Absolutely not. For me, it was a different pain, and it was a pain of when that night took place. I was on shift work at BP trying to help, secure the well and troubleshoot what was going on, and it was a helpless feeling doing everything we could, and nothing was working. And in hindsight, post investigation, you find a lot of things out, but for me. Like I said, I don't want to go through it again. I think about these guys all the time. Anytime there's discussions about, the new well control rule or just Macondo in general, it's a hot button for me. It's a hot button for me because in my subsea management class, I actually talk about the changes that took place post Macondo and how I'll call it a cause and effect. Hey, the ROV didn't function properly because the hoses weren't hooked up. Now we need to validate ROV functionality prior to running the BOP. Everything that Bessie's come out with, something happened during Macondo, they want to prevent it for pre-deployment testing. Okay, I can understand that. But when people start talking about the ignorant people who go, oh, these guys didn't do this, or oh, these guys didn't do that, and it's like, for me, it's like, you know what, dude, just stop, I don't talk politics, I don't talk religion, I don't talk Macondo. And the reason for that is I lived through it from a support standpoint, and it was a helpless feeling. Sitting in a room with some of the smartest guys I know, watching the feet of the rig as it's tipping over, and we're doing everything we can to try to secure the well. And there goes the rig. Kind of the flagship in the fleet is now sitting on the bottom of the ocean with 11 of your coworkers lost. That for me is something I'll never forget. So with all due respect to the actors, to the directors, to the people who had input to the movie, I went through it once. I couldn't watch a 2-minute trailer without getting choked up, just being honest. So I'm not going to go watch it. If you do go watch it, and you know what? If you can make it through the movie, good for you. But do me a favor, don't come out after it and start posting stuff all over social media and just making your comments about, oh, I saw this in the movie. Because odds are what you saw isn't truly what happened. I have a coworker of mine who is an EOD specialist in the Air Force. And we use the example, and I said, oh, I saw the movie The Hurt Locker. And he said, hey, look, dude, before we even get started, that movie did no justice to what the real-life experiences of EOD guys is. So just from that example, you'll see things from the movie that are dramatized. Reason is, it's Hollywood. You'll see things that took place. Obviously, 11 lives were lost. But don't come out of the movie trying to be an expert. Don't come out of the movie trying to tell us what really happened, because odds are what really happened is something that you'll never know. Something to think about.